The showdown with the landlord. Okay, drum roll please, cue the commentators, but I'm going to say it. Renting and buying are both fine choices. Now I know that you signed up for a course on home buying and now the presenter is giving you contradictory information. But look, depending on where you would like to live and what lifestyle benefits you plan to have for the foreseeable future, either circumstance could definitely be appropriate. Rent money is dead money. Interest repayments can also be viewed as dead money. If you move around a lot or have particular lifestyle choices, renting could well be the right option for you. The big difference is that buying a home is a fantastic personal achievement, one that can be loaded with emotion. A home is a haven to raise a family, an environment that you can create as your own, and ultimately one day you'll eventually own it outright. Look, timing and circumstances are the true factors that I believe will determine whether buying or renting is the right choice for you. Timing will definitely dictate your needs from a personal choices perspective. Market influences and circumstances again will fluctuate up and down, as will your own life and those differentiators in the market. Time, however, is without a doubt the biggest influencer on deciding between a winner of buying and renting as an option. Time definitely favours buying for two main reasons. Firstly, after 25 years or more or less of consistently contributing to an original mortgage value through repayments, you'll actually own that property outright. Those repayments can now be used for lifestyle choices or a nice addition to your retirement savings plan. Now, if you rent for the next 25 years, unfortunately you're not going to own that property and you'll have the ongoing weekly costs that you'll need to maintain. Secondly, time allows the magic of compound interest to take effect. Historically, Australian house prices have almost doubled every 10 years. Now, it's definitely not guaranteed, as some properties will underperform and others will overperform, but as a consistent average, the return equates to roughly 7%. So say, for example, you buy a house for $450,000 today. In 10 years' time, the value could look something closer to the 900K mark, as you'll see within this slide here. Now, 7% is nice and consistent, but look, that's pretty far from reality. Some years may record negative growth. Other years may record 18%, like Sydney, in the past year alone. And it's definitely going to vary dramatically, but 7% is definitely considered the average. Now, this is definitely a hypothetical scenario here over 10 years' time, the example I've provided on the slide. But as you can see, you've literally doubled the value of growth in that time. And even if you reduce the annual rate and say that you only achieve 3.5% annual growth, that compounded over 10 years is still a pretty significant amount of money. Now, those rates will fluctuate, obviously, depending on what's happening from a broader economic perspective, along with the actual property and the location of that dwelling as well. But look, when you do the math, run some hypothetical scenarios, because time will definitely give you the advantage over buying compared to renting. So if your current lifestyle favours renting, maybe the better option to look at would be purchasing an investment property instead. And look, we'll definitely cover this and this particular aspect in a lot more detail in our final weeks as well. So what are the barriers that will keep you renting? Well, we live in Australia, we live in the lucky country, and we have a particularly high standard of living. And that's really attractive, but it comes at a cost. High standard of living equates to a high cost of living, and that's no different in the housing sector as well. And there are a number of factors that contribute to high house prices, which include a housing shortage, and our population is growing, putting further pressure on that shortage. We have a safe and a robust economy where profits can be made. Our banking institutions have really strict lending criteria, and interest rates are incredibly low. Money is really cheap, historically low at this point in time, and investors are capitalising on that. Baby boomers and investors are cashed up and they're shopping for investment properties, or they're unlocking the superannuation funds through their self-managed superannuation and buying property as another investment vehicle. And our economy, our weather and our way of life really appeals to foreign investors as well. And these conditions are unlikely to change quickly, and most commentators would agree that things are currently moving at a rather sedate pace. So reasons include the increase in building approvals, wage growth has essentially plateaued. Interest rates will not stay at historically low levels forever, but they're going to remain flat for a significant period of time. Although prices will tend to be higher than a previous slump. So I guess the question is, what is it actually costing you to stay out of the housing sector for longer? Now, the housing market, I describe it, fluctuates like seasons of the weather. It goes from hot to cold to lukewarm to cold, just like spring and autumn and winter and summer. And, house prices will fluctuate according to the seasons. There will be times when they will drop or plateau, the winter months, and there will be times that they'll peak in the summer, essentially. But if we look at this as a trend line and stick it on a graph, we can always see that the last slump will be higher than the previous. So house prices are still trending very much upwards. Now, there's a few hurdles that first home buyers face. One is obviously affordability, like we're touching upon here. Second is actually saving for that initial deposit. There's a stack of purchasing costs as well, including stamp duty. And where to actually buy, where to make a decision that's going to be suitable for your lifestyle circumstances and what's going to really give you the best bang for your buck. Now, the buyer's guide can certainly help with each of those factors. But the reality is that house prices will not be going backwards anytime soon. So whilst those hurdles are very real and very challenging, what is the actual cost of not doing anything at all? Procrastination is the real killer in this scenario. And the longer that you're out of the market, the more difficult these challenges are certainly going to seem, particularly in another 2, 5 or 10 years' time. So if you are currently renting, the question for you now is to really make a decision and crunch the numbers on what it is actually costing you to remain renting at this point in time. Now, if you're looking at exiting your tenancy agreement, I would strongly suggest that you get familiar with your state rental tenancy authority. It could certainly work to your advantage as well. In these situations, you don't want to let the property manager or the landlord hold all the aces. You definitely are entitled to a number of rights, and you have to leverage those. So don't let them get away with things that are ultimately within your control as well. And worst case scenario is that you have 4 weeks of bonds tied up into this arrangement. Sometimes you just have to weigh that up and determine whether or not the juice is going to be worth the squeeze over the long term as well. So for the cost of 4 weeks rent and exiting an agreement early and actually getting into your own home and building equity in that straight away, is it worth it? Quite possibly not. That's for you to decide and make a decision when you're ready to do so.